I think all Dominicans ought to be proud, and Caribbean nationals, to see this kind of initiative. I think when I agreed to come to this event, I never expected this. This far exceeds my expectation. But what is so energizing about it is the enthusiasm, and I think the outcome-driven process that is going on here. I do hope that in the end, there will be outcomes that can become models of how to engage our nationals in the diaspora. I feel so excited and so proud to be here to witness this, that not only do I share in solidarity what Dominicans are doing, but I hope it would rub off on Grenadians and other nationals, other Caribbean nationals in New York, particularly, where so much of our what I call intellectual talent is in what you call residing. So it is my pleasure and it is an honor. I am glad to have been invited, and I do hope that the outcome of this will be shared. I wish our people in the Caribbean, I wish Dominicans can see what is going on here today, and they would feel reassured that Dominicans abroad have not forgotten Dominica.
Here who would like to invest in the development of Dominica by helping the funds of the bank, please raise your hands. Please raise your hands. I think I have it. Without much further ado, and we will be talking about that in more detail as we go on, we'll call upon then Mr. Tavernier, the economist, and see whether, of course, he can eclipse this brilliant idea with even a more excellent one. Thank you.
I will rush through this presentation because clearly this is going to be longer than 5 minutes if I go. Let's forget. But we do have to at least know what we're talking about when we talk about globalization. There's a longer definition, but in this case we're simply going to say that it is the international integration of markets in goods and services. Now clearly this is a topic that has been in the news quite a bit. With that process, again, we have, and people always seem to think that this is a process that takes place on its own, and that's clearly not the case. We have to ensure that the internal mechanisms are there for that to happen with internal liberalization. We also have to ensure that the external mechanisms are there, reduction import tariffs and so on. And the question, of course, comes on later whether, in fact, we should be doing this. We know of all the problems that we've had in those cities. And economists have examined the question of instability that we've been looking at very closely. But very often, we do that for developed countries and not for the developing countries like Dominica and the rest. And if we have economic instability in the developed countries, then clearly that will be greater in the developing countries, because like Dominica, we have this kind of narrow range of products. Bananas, for example, has only exports. The country's a lot smaller as well. And as Dr. Thompson was talking about, the financial infrastructure very often is not totally developed. You want to take over? Yeah. All right, let's just skip that. Let's go on. I think we just go on. Now, clearly, the question of whether we should be open is an important one. And first, we need openness because that increases our market size. I remember following the discussion with Rosie Douglas when he was trying to open markets in Martinique and Guadeloupe and the European Union. And everybody thought, well, he was probably crazy, but clearly we don't have much of a choice because that's what happened. We don't know markets, so again, increase productivity. We have people bringing computers and the knowledge and so on over there, and that's important. And clearly, hopefully, the question of openness will encourage the type of government that we have to embark on policies that are beneficial to the country. Let's just keep all this crazy, right? Just keep on going. Forget about all this things. All right. Well, I need some data to arrive at some information. Forget about that as well. The data. the reason this is, I must, well, forget about that. Okay. What this says, for example, is that when our open economies do in fact are subjected to quite a bit of instability. The second one does say that, of course, if you have exports, increased exports, you are in fact again expose yourself, even though it's beneficial, to some instability. But one thing that I've always found in the research I've done, the importance of agriculture in GDP never seems to be very, very important. And I think part of the reason for that, now, that does not mean that agriculture itself is not important in a country's development. That's not what I'm saying. But I think what's happening with agriculture in a lot of these countries is that we export the raw material, and we have very little value added going through these countries, and as a result, the true impact is never felt throughout the economy. And so that's what we get, I guess. Forget about all this graphs and so on. Okay, let's see the bottom. Now clearly, the trade of this, as we saw from this brief chat, creates economic instability through multiple sources. We have increased bilateral trade investments, export instability coupled with increased openness. But in some cases, we need to encourage. If you're going to, I always remember Rosie saying that government is not a business, and sometimes you have to incur some large public debt sometimes, because again, it's not asked to come and ask you something. But that doesn't mean that you go overboard. That's just the now, very often we have all these arguments again with Washington and wherever, that we have all these riots and problems, and people say we're losing our jobs. But we should not use those problems as an argument against trade openness, because what we must do, though, is recognize that there are distributional consequences, and people will lose their jobs. And of course, what do we do with that? So we should then embark on some strategies that focus on bettering the standards of living for the people in our countries. Now, another thing that has happened with all this trade is we have all these arrangements where countries kind of couple their policies together. Now, when you're married, it's very difficult. Whatever one person does affects the other one. If you're married and get a divorce, then your assets are in trouble. So whatever one person does affects the others. Okay. So when you have that kind of arrangement with various countries, or various groupings, then it's very difficult to embark on unilateral policies, because whatever one does affects the other. And again, with the question of capital, money goes where it gives the highest return. And although we want to encourage development, and we should encourage development in Dominica, we are, as economists, always talking about rational human beings, and I think everybody here is the same way. But okay, so with that, very quick, very quick wrap up. This is my contribution. It looks like I did just in time too. So thanks.
Together an association of Caribbean American elected officials and leaders. We are 27 first and second generation Caribbean Americans, and we are at all levels of government, from state assembly, state delegates, council members, put ourselves together, bond ourselves together, and it is 8 years that we've been lobbying Washington for favorable trade to the Caribbean. And so during the presidential campaign, we sent each presidential candidate and senatorial candidate a letter with issues that affect the Caribbean. And President Bush has just responded to the letter that we sent him then, and he's assigned his staff to do a briefing with us. And I understand from the White House that if I guarantee that one or more of our prime ministers will come, that he will be present at the meeting. So I'm pushing to bring at least 4 of the prime ministers in. All of our ambassadors who are dealing with trade issues in Washington will be there. I've asked Congressman Rangel and Congressman Congressman Meeks, Donna Christensen, who's Caribbean American, and Sheila Lee Jackson to participate. He has J.C. Watts, who is his point person, who will be there, and they promise that if this meeting goes well, that they will be willing to do an economic tour of the Caribbean to see what we're talking about. So I'm very pleased with what's happening. Our member from Hartford, Connecticut, the Honorable Ari Wilson, is a well-respected member of the Republican Party. She is a Jamaican national like I am, and so I'm president of the organization. She's first vice president. So we've been double teaming whether a Democrat is in the White House or a Republican in the White House. And so we've been able to get this meeting for January. And so we're now doing all of our clearance to make sure that we put in the room the 125 leaders that they want to come.
The purpose of our presentation this morning was basically to highlight to the Dominicans within the diaspora what their role was in the continued promotion of Dominica as a destination on the North American market. So primarily what we highlighted was ways in which they can help us as the tourist in the further promotion of Dominica by offering to persons that they come into contact with on a daily basis, not only their friends and families, but persons they come into contact with on a daily basis, Dominica as a tourism destination within the Caribbean. So they would in turn be selling on behalf of the tourist office, on behalf of the Hotel and Tourism Association in Dominica, packages to potential visitors. We're offering also, we proposed a series of incentives not only to potential consumers but also to those Dominicans that would be selling packages. So that was the main purpose of our presentation this morning, and we are very hopeful that it will go a long way in the promotion of the destination.
Without much further ado, I call now on Mr. Eisenhower Douglas, who is the Chief Government Economic Advisor, to speak with us on the issue of economic development. And Mr. Douglas, please be brief, and for coordinators, please pass those signals so we can know that we can move our time in a timely manner. Mr. Douglas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I will try to observe your guidelines. First of all, let me say it is a great pleasure for me to be here. I see some very familiar faces. I don't want to begin to identify them. Some family members, close friends, and it's really an opportunity that I savor. Came in last night late, and here I am. In terms of trying to get to the point in the limited time available, I want to say that Dominica, we're going through some very difficult times now in terms of the economy. But I want to say straight off the bat that a lot of those problems are self-inflicted. Okay? I believe, first of all, we have to stop inflicting blows on ourselves. And therefore, if we still have difficulties, then we can say, well, these are due to factors outside of our control. What they call in literature, exogenous factors. And if I might just give you just a few brief examples. For example, let's take the airport. There's just one example, the famous airport that we're trying to build, the question of air access. We have spent over, in the region of about $33 million, in the beginning of the last government, trying to pursue this business about the airport. And of course, that whole exercise came to naught, because we are not going that route anymore. And therefore, I'm saying, it's not a question of party now. I'm saying that we as Dominicans now have blundered. Our whole planning system, that's a definite piece of evidence that the planning system is not delivering what it's supposed to deliver. And even very, very recently, for example, that we have this problem with the Canadian government, imposing visa restrictions on Dominica. Well, that whole thing could have been avoided. The fact of the matter is that I'm not talking party now, I was talking Dominica now. Because the fact of the matter is that since when the last PM came in, when he came in, one of the first priorities was to address this whole matter. Because remember, the former government had introduced this offshore sector, and certain Chinese were trying to get into Canada, Dominican passports and so on. So he said that was his priority. And you can't tell me up to now we haven't been able to rectify that. And we should have solved that problem long ago. We really have to get on with getting the job done. I think this is one of the first things. So I can list a whole set of examples where I can prove to you by arithmetic that a lot of the problems we have in Dominica are self-inflicted. Okay, that's one. Okay, let me go on to some of the issues now. Now, we have embarked upon, hopefully through the kind assistance of the European Union, the European Union has given Dominica government a grant of a little over $900,000 to put a plan together for the country, an economic development plan. Now, we started working on this thing, about a month ago. We have a number of consultants working with us, most of whom are local consultants. Okay? And I believe some of the names that were mentioned here earlier, like Lambert Lewis, for example, is one of the consultants. We have Charles Maynard, we have some of the others, Ron Green, and it's interesting to have somebody like Ron Green, bearing in mind that he's a sitting member of parliament, for the UWP. So we try to transcend the whole business of, politics by involving persons from the other party. And in fact, one of the things we've done so far, actually, that and Mr. Atherton Martin is also involved in it. I happen to be the coordinator of the entire exercise. And we actually have met the three political parties separately, the political parties. Now, so we're hoping, and also once the project proceeds, we're hoping to meet them again, hopefully jointly next time, maybe around February. So I'm saying that this is a gold opportunity for persons here in the diaspora to input into this economic development plan. The project itself is going to last about 6 months. We hope to have everything finished by the end of April 2002. So we are at a point now where your input will be very, very welcome. And in fact, this is one of the main reasons I'm here, to tell you about the project and to find some mechanism where this group here, whether the Rosie Douglas Foundation or the Dominican Academy of Sciences, Arts and Sciences, can find a mechanism to input into this exercise, because I believe that will be tremendously helpful. I mean, Dominica cannot exist by, cannot progress strictly, internally. We need to have links to the outside, and we believe that many of you here who have roots in Dominica, who want to see Dominica move forward, can play a tremendous role. My last point is now, very limited time. I want to say that first of all that in Dominica now, we have some difficulty in the economy, and some of it are our own fault, and some of it we sort of inherited from the prior administration. And I want to say first of all that the question of stabilization, trying to get for example, fiscal housing, trying to get the unemployment situation under control. We've done a lot of technical work on that. With the help of the IMF, with the help of the ECCB, the help of the Caribbean Development Bank, and really we're at a point now where government really has to make decisions now. I mean, it's not a question of, I don't believe we need any more studies now as far as stabilization and adjustment is concerned. It's really a question of decision making. That's really what it is. Decision A has certain implications, decision B has certain implications, whether you combine part of A and part of B, but decision is the issue. So therefore, I see the IDP, the Integrated Development Planning Project, as focusing mainly on the issues of growth. Because the evidence is from the data that during the 80s, the growth rate of the economy was roughly twice as high as the growth rate in the 90s. So we definitely have a problem with growth. And it's really from growth that you get income. You cannot really expect to have right. You ready? Okay, I'm not right. You really cannot get income without growth. So, and as you know, we have the difficulty with the banking industry. We're trying to transform the economy into more tourism-oriented, more offshore-oriented, and therefore that's not something you can achieve overnight. I myself personally believe that we have to recognize that the long-term future, and I'm not trying to attack anybody who is involved in banana production, but the fact of the matter is, and that's my final point, Mr. Chairman, the fact of the matter is that in 1988, we exported $103 million worth of bananas, $103 million. Last year, in fact this year, if we make 20 million, 20 million, we'll be lucky. So this whole business about trying to revitalize the banana industry, in my humble opinion, is throwing good money after bad. We have to recognize that it's not bananas we want to be involved in like that. It's really foreign exchange we want to earn. And bananas used to be the way we do foreign exchange, and therefore we have to find alternative way of doing foreign exchange. And I'm saying that, as Thompson Fountain mentioned, the ideas is where that whole program has to originate. What are the ideas one can leverage in order to get our act together? Combine that with management and effective programs can get us on that long-term trajectory, which is what the IDP is hopefully hoping to galvanize. Thanks very much.
I was one of the panelists at the symposium representing CaribbeanSupplies.com. CaribbeanSupplies.com is an e-commerce, a content and e-commerce powerhouse for Caribbean goods and services. We are currently featuring a number of products from the Caribbean here at the symposium. This is, of course, the first of its kind. It's a showcase of Caribbean Dominican products, and this symposium has provided the exposure that we've needed in terms of coming together as a group to support Dominica and hopefully to contribute towards the economic development of the country.
The symposium is going very well. Everybody is excited. There's a certain energy displayed here, and people are really looking forward to doing something positive for their country. And everybody here, I am sure, is just happy to be here. There's a spirit of joy and positive. There's a positive attitude among everybody, and it's just a joy to be part of this. This is history in the making, and I'm very happy that I came here today. In fact, I would not have missed it for anything.
Thank you.
Going is that we speak English, very fascinating language, the language of William Shakespeare, the great writers. The fact of the matter is, some of us, including yours truly, would like to talk, but the fact of the matter is, we're the 11th hour, and so now is not the time for talking too much. Now is the time for action. Action now. And in that regard, I would not spend any more time, but to bring on board one of our planners, someone who came to the United States after being a law enforcement officer and distinguished himself in planning. He's a major planner in the southern parts of the United States, and so he'll come on quickly, and because he's a very planned person, he will speak crisply. Welcome, Ms. Abraham.
Thank you, Jim. I think it's just fitting for me to be the last person on the ice, putting the icing on the cake. And I say that no matter what we talk about today, no matter what we talk about today, it's not going to mean anything without having what I'm going to talk. Without plan, without plan. So this is an essential part as to anything we want to do in developing Dominica. So good morning, distinguished guests, dignitaries, friends of the island of the Commonwealth of Dominica, fellow countrymen and women, well-wishers and colleagues. Today makes a significant day in our country's history. Today I hope to produce a change in the interest of building our nation. First, it is imperative that I make this clear before I move on. I have no affiliation with any political party in the island of Dominica. I stand before you today as a concerned citizen who, like many of you, are concerned about the situation of our homeland. It is unfortunate that leaders of the current political parties are not represented here today. If we are to succeed in moving Dominica forward, we must create a cohesive synergize by combining our energies and minds in the effort of today's gathering. Further, I sincerely hope that this symposium and those that follow will provide some answers, suggestions, and direction for rectifying some of Dominica's problems. The DAS and RDF should not be viewed as a panacea, but as an open door, as we all have to play our part in the development process of our birthland. With the same token, I sincerely hope that we, the panelists and participants, are not here to just shed light on qualifications, or to just plain provide lip service, for we are tired of lip service and talk and talk and talks. I'm not only concerned about today's event, but what follows is of significant concern to me. My focus today is on planning and development. My article for discussion is entitled Developing a Comprehensive and Effective Economic Plan. Is the answer to Dominica's ailing problem. And you'll see more evidence of that while I follow Mr. Douglas, what he just said a while ago, so you see what the problem is in Dominica. This paper hits the heart of Dominica's problems, as planning is an integral part of any government and the island development process. Unfortunately, much attention has not been given to that area in Dominica. Hence, the consequences are quite apparent today. Planning encompasses a diverse area and many specialties within that diversity. It is impossible to cover everything about planning in this limited time frame. However, a few areas of planning that are of great importance to Dominica are transportation, long-term, short-term planning, community, tourism, infrastructure, economy, environment, historical preservation, industrial parks, technology, business parks, manufacturing, national parks, zoning, land use application, agriculture, education, soil and water conservation, the use of GIS technology, health, and building and construction codes regulation are important for Dominica's development. I will attempt to address some of those in our discussion today as time permits. By doing so, it is clearly my intention to remove the tunnel vision that has plagued us for so long, so we can at least begin to look clearer at the bigger picture. Certainly, one will be unwise to think that the late Prime Minister Rosie Douglas, former Prime Ministers Eugenia Charles and Edison James had all the answers to Dominica's problem. And with the same token, neither do we, the panelists. Again, that's why it is important that all heads join if we are to move Dominica forward. In closing, I am prepared to answer questions in support of my position paper and relevant questions and views as to Dominica's development process. No matter how many ideas and projects come out of this historical gathering, it is important to caution everyone to the reality that with the absence of a comprehensive, effective plan, nothing can be accomplished for the island of Dominica.
I must say I feel very honored and privileged to be here. I believe in Dominican, I believe in the capacity, and that Dominicans have our major natural resource really is that of our human resource. It's really, really good listening to the ideas and seeing people coming together to work for the country, to bring forward ideas for the development and advancement of our people. So I must say I'm very impressed, I have been very satisfied. I feel grateful, I feel honored, and on behalf of the government, we want to really say thank you to the organizers. Today is the beginning. Today we have put together the cornerstone for the development and advancement of our country. It's a cornerstone that we have been looking for many times, for a very, very long while. We were always aware of it. Today we see the talent and we see Dominicans united in spirit, united in vision, united in goal for the advancement and development of our country, one of the most beautiful countries there can be in the world.
The public sector, including the government and the private sector, are committed to this expansion. Unlike the United States and most industrial nations, Dominica does not have the internal infrastructure to make it happen within Dominica. One, Dominica has a very small consumer base and therefore cannot internally sustain any major expansion of this sector. Secondly, the current state of the Dominican economy does not afford the government the luxury of financing this expansion by itself. Therefore, the private, both local and overseas, together with some assistance from the major world organizations such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, will have to play a critical role in this expansion. 3, there are current laws, regulations, and government-private sector agreements that are roadblocks to achieving this expansion. I say roadblocks because some of these can be easily removed, while others will require major effort by both government and the private sector. 4, the lack of adequate technical human resources in Dominica. The good news is the government has expressed its willingness to work with the private sector to enable this expansion, and therefore several members of the private sector that are currently engaged in building the foundation that will serve as a platform to transform the sector. Companies like Caribbean Supplies, Corporation, Caribis, last but not least, Consortium Inc. The high literacy rate of the Dominican people, the availability of qualified Dominicans residing overseas, also will play a major role. What we have done in order to be able to move forward, I've coined a phrase for this endeavor. It's called services and solutions for the 21st century. We have formed a corporation, a Dominican corporation, by the name of Convergent Technologies Group Limited. For short, I call it CTGL. CTGL is a newly formed for information technology, business development, and market consulting firm with expertise that can ensure Dominica's emergence as a recognized leader in the Caribbean in attracting, developing, retaining high technology and other economic development companies that provide products and services to a global community. Now, a global community is very important. Our mission is to expand the information, telecommunication, technology sector in Dominica through the development and marketing of services to a global community of businesses and consumers. Promote and attract private investment. Create jobs and attract new businesses to Dominica. Encourage the expansion and retention of existing companies through the provision of management and technical support. Form partnerships within the private sector and with the public sector to publicize Dominica's economic advantages and market local products and services at home and abroad. Encourage and develop new ideas and concepts and turn them into viable projects and businesses. Our vision. The history of mankind is full of increasing accomplishments in the realm of both man and machine. The present ever changes rapidly while the world is becoming one big stage where the actors are drawn from countries far and near. Rapid growth of technology has eliminated borders and opened doors to unbelievable achievements. The future is bright, yet challenging. CTGL is poised and ready to meet the challenge. CTGL will harness the new technologies to provide clients with some state-of-the-art and cutting-edge solutions while playing a major role in the social well-being of Dominica and the modern society. Our values. CTGL believes that the quality relationship starts with understanding the client, who the client is, what the client needs, and how to provide the best return on the client's technology investment. This belief is in our growth of CTGL's values, which are the cornerstone of their existence. We believe that the following rules: be ethical and trustworthy with our clients, partners, and associates and staff. Expect and insist on ethical business partners. Listen, understand, and execute. Demand excellence from our team and provide value to our partners and clients. Promote and reward outstanding performance. Educate while being educated. And never compromise our values. I will cut this short. I want to say that basically right now the board that we've established consists of myself, who's the chairman, Mr. Alec Lawrence, who's our general counsel, Mr. Gabriel Christian, who's our associate counsel, and Mr. Kenneth Moore. We will be inviting Dominicans to also take part into that. I want to say one thing before I close. And most of you were on the board of Bernard Lee. Bernard Lee was the guy who invented the internet. Bernard Lee went before a group of scientists and presented a white paper on the internet. They told him it would never work. Today, there's clear evidence that because it's persistent and his willingness to drive this process, it works. Most of you knew of Bill Gates. When he started, they told him it would never work. IBM is too big, we will not be able to come to the market. He has done so. So today, it's not so much the fact that we have a challenge, but the willingness to face the challenge, and with that willingness, we will definitely succeed in making Dominica a shining example for the Caribbean. Thank you.
Happy to be here. Actually, I've been in the process of making this happen. We worked with the RDP in Washington or in New York. Gabriel Christian and Dr. Thompson Fontaine. For the past 3 months, we have been having a number of awareness programs, radio programs, telling people in Dominica about this process now taking place. And I'm happy to see it become a reality. Actually, I was one who worked very closely with the late Prime Minister, Mr. Rosie Douglas, and I think if he was here today, he would be very happy. And as his sister indicated earlier, I mean, if Rosie was alive, or I mean, the fact that he's dead, he'd be very happy to know that this thing is happening, and we're building, we're trying to get Dominicans together. As a matter of fact, one of his first missions as Prime Minister of Dominica was meeting Dominicans out of Dominica. We went to North America, we went to Europe, we went to the Caribbean, meeting with Dominicans and trying to tell them and show them how important it is for they to take place or for them to take place in the national development of the country. It's not, Dominica does not belong to Dominicans living in Dominica. It belongs to all of us. And I think I'm just happy to be part of that process. It's time for action. Let's stop talking and let's act. I mean, because as I said, Dominica does not belong to the foreigners. Dominica belongs to all of us. And I think, this is a step in the right direction as to where we want Dominica to go.
Because we knew that time would be maybe a little bit of an enemy with us today, what we did was that we had all the presenters give us in advance all their presentations. So these, since we talk about economic development, both of these are on sale on the outside, and they need to come back to your libraries, because these magazines and what in fact they include are unprecedented in our island nation's history. They represent some of the fine work by our human resource base. So please make sure that you have both of those in your little satchel when you leave this afternoon. They all stay on the outside. Let's now do this. What we're going to do is quickly hear a summary from the government representative who was so kind as to be here, Minister Skerritt, who is the Minister of Agriculture. He's a young Dominican who studied here. Minister Henderson is Agriculture, Minister Skerritt is Education. Mr. Skerritt, you will be on the second panel, so actually you will sit and the Minister of Agriculture will come out. So my apologies there. My apologies. My profound apologies. What he's going to quickly do is a summary, and when the summary is done, the summary will be 2 minutes. When the summary is done, we'll open the floor for a brief period of time before the other panel takes the stage. Let's welcome Vince Henderson, Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you very much, Gabe. We get that all the time. We get mixed, except in a few things. I'm very, very happy to be here today. I think this is a wonderful manifestation of the determination of a people who have decided to become more involved or to become partners in the development process of the country. I know that we in Dominica, and I think most of us, even though we're not in Dominica, we hear of the cries of our people, and we're very concerned. But I believe that out of these adversities, that a strong people will emerge. I believe it's the time that we take on our identity as Dominicans and start to contribute towards the development of Dominica. However, development, economic development, in this case, cannot be realized without the partnership with the involvement of the political directorate and the private sector. Civil society must be integrated in the developmental plan of the country. And that's why I'm very encouraged and I'm happy, although for some reason someone didn't recognize our presence here. I think it was the speaker just before me, and indicated that government was not represented. But I must say thanks to the private sector who has contributed to making this trip possible. It does not cost anything to the state except our absence. And we were able to be here today. And I think that in itself is an indication of the seriousness that government takes towards this initiative. A few areas of discussion. Planning. I think Professor Douglas has now indicated to you that we are undergoing a process that no other island or country in the sub-region, the OECS, has done, and that is the integrated development plan. So I think my good friend here, we're very much in line, and this government has taken some initiatives to be a responsible government and to ensure that whatever we do is integrated into a plan that will realize the development of our country. So that is ongoing. The IT development, well, most of you here are aware, I think all of us in fact are aware of the contribution of IT towards the development of the new economy. And I think we in government have seen that importance, and we are doing our best to ensure that we sort of have a plan for IT, for the development of IT. And Dr. Hermanstein has been in Dominica several occasions trying to assist us in that process. But it's something that we are hoping that we'll do. One more thing, please. I mean, on the Minister of Agriculture, be remiss of me if I can mention something. I know my good friend here, Professor Douglas, mentioned that it is a waste of time throwing good money after bad money. But I think Dr. Shillingford might tell him quite the contrary. We are trying our best to ensure that we maintain an industry that has contributed to the development of Dominica. $20 million a year, to do without that, think of it. $20 million a year. The rural poor, the displacement that we brought about by that kind of thing, we must ensure that we, as responsible government, do whatever we can to maintain a viable industry. It cannot continue to perform that it is now. This is why we're doing the best that we can to ensure that we're putting on the right footing. Thank you very much.
We've got a brilliant gentleman. Quickly. What I want to say is this. I think what we can do is blend whatever Dr. Shillingford might say, blend that with what Dr. Patavani said, and that is value added. Mantra, value added. Value added. Listen, Gerber baby food. So many people here have heard of Gerber. Okay. How many people here know that that company makes about $500 million to $1 billion a year on its banana puree? Yeah. How many banana plantations are there in the United States? No. Value? Thank you very much. Now that we've had the summarization, and now that we're excited because we understand the idea that you can have banana wine, banana puree, banana chips, and the entire panoply of bananas, the entire universe of bananas. So you create an entire industry. And then you get the islands here to ship it to Curacao and to Aruba and to Puerto Rico. And then you have Caribbean stores in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, in the Queens. 20 million Caribbean people on the eastern shore, eastern seaboard rather than the United States, all the way from Miami. And we have not gotten to Canada as yet. So we have a ready-made market. And I want to recognize two people before we open the floor. From the Georgetown Caribbean Project, which is working on exactly that matter. Kathy, what's your last name? Can you stand, please?
Torrington.
Kathy Torrington. Welcome, Kathy Torrington. What we're trying to do is to provide market access and information so people who will do what, in fact, Mr. Tavernier is talking about, and Dr. Schliemann is going to craft, and Mr. Minister Vince Henderson is going to go ahead and open the door so it can happen so it's not blocked. We'll in fact have a place to go to. And I want to also recognize, since we're talking about economic development, and if you're talking about economic development, you want to power IT, you want to power a power plant, you need energy. You need energy. 3-4 years ago, we had a national tragedy committed, or in fact happened. Some would call it a crime. But we sold our electricity producing company, Domlec, to a foreign concern. And here today, I want to have you come up, Professor Etienne. One of the leading scientists in the United States today, believe it or not, is Berlin Etienne. I want Mr. Etienne to stand here, because if someone saw him, they may think that he's the son of Bob Marley. The reality is that he's a senior professor and researcher at the University of Maryland's Kelsey Institute, College Park, Maryland. He has his undergrad in electromechanical engineering. He has his master's in electromechanical engineering and another master's, I believe, in econometrics in energy, and he's on his way shortly to a PhD. Let's thank this gentleman. I want to let you know, this is the stuff we're made of. This is the stuff we're made of. And if you can harness that talent if we can use that locomotive of talent and hook it up to the caboose of national development, we're going forward, only forward. So he's come together with some scientists, Bo Dominican, and he's formed the Dominican Sustainable Energy Corporation. And that came out of an idea that a very, very good friend of Dominican had, Chicken Wilson, who together with Roy Morgan and myself formed Nature Island Inc., and who in 2000, with the assistance of Chancellor O'Brien, did a technical assistance program with the University of New Orleans. And that company is a company that with sustainable energy will replace CDC again, once again with Dominic and another company. And we ask the government to open the doors because we're coming. Don't let us open the doors down. Just open it nicely and welcome home your brothers. Because we're not going to be a people who are asleep at the wheel. We're not going to neglect our duty. We're going to brace ourselves to our duties, and we're going to save our country and rebuild the wasted cities. In 1948, the State of Israel was built. In 1952, they produced the aircraft. And so if the Jews can do it, we too can do it. Brothers and sisters, for a short time, the floor is open. If you're afraid to come to the microphone, do know that you can write on that little index card I mentioned and hand it to the floor coordinators. I have the first question here from Delmas Moses. Delmas, you can stand up and you can go to the microphone. And those who want to follow him, please line up behind him so we can get this rolling. Thank you. Line up behind Mr. Moses. Yes, floor coordinators.
We just thought it's important that Mr. Etienne actually elaborates somewhat on the whole energy concept.
Yes. The energy concept that we're looking at actually is to use the natural resources that we have in the island, to sustain the energy demands and the development requirements that we need in Dominica. Now the way that we are going to approach that is, first we're going to have the pilot project, and utilizing the results from that pilot project for an expansion, commercialization of the green resources, water resources that we have, to power Dominica's electrical demands, and then from there we'll move into manufacturing of the electrical components for sustainable energy development. You know, like we probably have there are niches in the market that we can use to generate like turbines and stuff like that are not available in the current technology out there.
And we can probably have this manufactured in Dominica as part, and make it as part of the Dominica Independent University, Dominica Institute of Technology in Dominica to do that. And
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but can you specifically talk about wind? I think that's very important.
Okay. But currently, the energy in Dominica right now is approximately 29 US cents a kilowatt hour. So that's ridiculous. That's the highest in the region, actually. And with wind, we can probably get it down to approximately 10 cents per kilowatt hour. This is almost 20%. And wind blows constantly. If it wasn't for the wind, Columbus would have gone into the Caribbean. So, and we have all these resources that we need to explore. And they're sustainable. We're promoting Dominica as an HOI. And we need to use this type of energies. It makes Dominica more marketable. And it encourages ecotourism. And exactly. It actually will help the investors, people who want to come in to invest in Dominica. Exactly.
And Bevan is going to continue because we need the time. Bevan, thank you very much.
Yeah.
He will be a part. We can take, because of time, and the time has outstripped us really, despite our best efforts to be crisp. We can only take 2 questions. If, in fact, 2 of the persons may want to ask questions, we want to save it for the teamwork session this afternoon, then you'll be helping the cause. Mr. Moses, do you?
I want to really thank Washmi for his introduction. First Douglas brother. Washmi, I can only remember you as Washmi. And people were talking party politics, and I say, listen, I ain't talking politics, but I'm on vacation. If you want to talk business, I want to talk. And and they just dropped the politics and wanted to talk business, and which really helped. But I want to really thank the tourism department, because I teach music at the UC Berkeley Music Department, and actually 25 of my students had signed up to visit Dominica, and I asked the tourism department here for information, and it was like efficient, quick response packages were there. And everybody had signed up to visit Dominica, except for the fact that 9/11 affected the number of people. Some of them still went. But what I want to use that is as an example that every one of us as Dominicans, and we need to, because we have Carnival, which is like a real big celebration, and the festival is one of the best festivals in the world. I've traveled around the world as a musician and as an artist. And I really want to encourage Dominicans for us to be able to send play notes to Dominica, and it's something I've discussed with Pat Aaron and other artists. But I mean, like, I alone spoke just to my classes at UC Berkeley, and 25 people signed up to visit Dominica for the festival on the fact that we could sell Dominica. And I think we need our culture, and it's just a sad thing that nobody on the panel talks about culture as an asset, music, and instead of bananas, we can sell music. And the power of culture, the power of music, and our culture is kind of unique, and I think through education and through the artists, we have artists, that's one of our major exports, in case you don't know. We have professional artists all around the world, in every nook and cranny. For us as Dominicans to use our music and market it, and I think instead of bananas, I think it's going to be bouillon. Thank you.
I'm going to ask all the panelists to stand so you can thank them for their contribution. So you can thank them for their contribution.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to commend the Rosie Douglas Foundation for putting this symposium together. I think it's a wonderful idea to get all our Dominicans and Dominican diaspora to pool resources together, see how we can chart a way forward for the development of Dominica. Our presence here, my presence and the presence of the Minister for Education, Honorable Rosie Douglas, is an indication of government's commitment to this process. It's an indication that government is willing to engage the Dominican diaspora is willing to engage the RDF and the Dominican Academy of Arts and Sciences in the whole process of development of Dominica. We're very happy to be part of this discussion here today and to be part of this historic occasion. We hope that out of the discussions here, that the implementation will be something that we will look forward to and we can embrace with each other's participation, creating an environment that is conducive to that sort of thing. So I'm hoping that we can continue this relationship, and I hope it will be a long-lasting one with RDF and the DAAS together with government. We know on our end we have the responsibility of ensuring that the policies that we put in place will create the enabling environment for the development of Dominica with, of course, the engagement of the Dominican diaspora. So we're very happy to be here, and we look forward to being with you guys sometime in the future.